Okay, we're going to talk about real numbers. This is section 1.1, and we're actually going to talk about different properties and what they are. If you remember right, when we left algebra 2, we had complex numbers. A subset of these were real, and then we also had imaginary. We'll talk about imaginary here later on. This involves I, which is square root of -1. Okay, in real numbers, we've got some subsets out of them. We have what we call rational, and we have what we call irrational. Okay, rational numbers mean you can write them as a ratio or a fraction of two integers. Okay, so things like 3.1 is rational because you can write it as 3 and 1/10. Okay, 3.14 is also rational and be written as 3 and 14/100ths. Okay. Now, there's a subset of rational numbers that we call integers. In between there, we also have a special type, which are your whole or counting numbers. These are 1, 2, 3, on and on and on. Integers, again, will include things like -1, -2, -3, 0, 1. All right. Things like the square root of 9. Now we know this is going to be plus and minus 3. But this number itself, this is an integer. This number is not, because it's not written as just a single number. It's got an operator in it. Irrational numbers which can't be written that way, you're used to seeing these do things like pi, e, square root of 2, square root of 3. These are very common numbers. These are all irrational numbers. All right. And so what you're going to be expected to do in here is go through and classify different numbers in these particular bounds. Review of things you've done before. Let's talk a little bit about absolute value. Okay, absolute value. For instance, if I want to find the distance between 2 and 7.2 on a number line, okay? Well, what we would do okay, that's the distance. Now, the problem is if you went the other way, you get a negative number. So what absolute value means is I take that number and I just make it a positive. Now the problem is, and this is kind of nice, this just tells you how far apart two things are, two numbers in particular. All right? So 5.2, and that just tells us how far apart they are. Negative 5.2 tells us which direction they're moving. So part of the problem with absolute value is you lose some information out of this thing. When you come in and you take a look at it, you really don't know whether one number is bigger or smaller than the other. All you know is that the numbers are just 3 units apart. And that's the first part of what you're going to be doing in this assignment. You're also going to have to go back in and read about the different properties, commutative, associative, distributive. You've done these, and how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. These are also important.